Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Coffee and Contemplation brought to you by Spotlight Recovery. It is May 23rd. We've got a reflection on spiritual health today, talking about that comparison between the connection with spiritual health and then also some of the issues we can struggle with in like a North American or like Western society around money, success, glam, fame, all of that stuff. So I think that's a neat intersection to talk about, and so I wanted to get into that today. So I'll put it up on the screen. If you're listening on audio only, as always, we've got the reading in the description with a version so you can read along and then save it on your phone. Okay, so May 23rd, spiritual health. When the spiritual malady is overcome, we straighten out mentally and physically. Alcoholics Anonymous, page 64. It is very difficult for me to come to terms with my spiritual illness because of my great pride, disguised by my material successes and my intellectual power. Intelligence is not incompatible with humility, provided I place humility first. To seek prestige and wealth is the ultimate goal for many in the modern world. To be fashionable and to seem better than I really am is a spiritual illness. To recognize and to admit my weakness is the beginning of good spiritual health. It is a sign of spiritual health to be able to ask God every day to enlighten me, to recognize His will, and to have the strength to execute it. My spiritual health is excellent when I realize that the better I get, the more I discover how much help I need from others. And this inspiration is from the AA Daily Reflections. Okay, yeah, so I just like this topic. I'm glad that they wrote about it. And it's definitely something that a lot of us can struggle with and have these conflictions over, especially depending on how or when we get sober and what that time looks like, because a lot of us come into recovery already after we've, done successfully in school or work or built a business or had a family and bought the house and the cars and all of this stuff, that seems to be the case for a lot of people. And so that's absolutely another barrier or a challenge, I guess, should I say, to be able to understand and get your head around when you see you have all this success and have acquired all these things in one area or these other areas of your life, but you can't do it in sobriety. You can't do it on your own volition, where in all these other areas, work, school, family, whatever, you've been able to create all of this success, yet you haven't been able to successfully stop drinking on your own, or whatever your addiction may be, right? So that's something that I see a lot of people conflicting with. I personally don't resonate with that story too much, or not to the levels that some other people do. I got sober when I was 23. I'd been in and out of homelessness, had a hard time I couldn't keep a job that was going to build me a career. I couldn't keep an apartment because I couldn't pay rent properly, or I was living with unseemly characters, shall we say. So yeah, that was that was what my experience looked like. However, for the start, when I was quote unquote just drinking, I went to culinary school right out of high school, and I was top of my class, and I was drunk the entire time, and I don't remember a lot of it. And a lot of the skills I learned and developed and things. It was really too bad. I had to relearn and rebuild them all over again in sobriety because I just couldn't remember. So I'd had that. Then once pot came into my life, that was a whole other story. And then things really started to fall off the rails there, and I was enjoying other stuff too. But anyway, so that was it for me. So I had a little glimpse of that, being able to look at where I had been successful and done well, yet then couldn't apply any of this to recovery. And that part was really frustrating. But so like I said, there's a lot of folks who have even more of that experience, and I can really understand where that frustration comes in and where that challenge comes in. So I think around that, it's important. I disregard a lot of the old, hard AA language, or the way that some old timers will talk to you in meetings. I'll be like, when you come into meetings, you're useless and you don't know anything, and you need to take the cotton out of your mouth and stick it in your ears, or whatever it is, vice versa. just all of that crap. Like, a lot of old timers can get really degrading around this stuff, and I don't recall it saying any of this in the big book anywhere. So maybe get back to your basics and do some reading before you talk like that. But just more so understanding and gaining some perspective around all these same skills and tools that you use for success outside of recovery. A lot of them may not be so applicable in recovery, or you have to go about them a different way, So just being able to build some perspective around that change instead, I think, is a lot more helpful and beneficial for people, and also just more realistic, So I think that's a really important piece with this. And then as you grow in recovery, you find a program that works for you. If you decide to go the spiritual route, which I really suggest, especially for people who really feel like you have nowhere else to go, this is your last shot and your last chance, or if you're doing it through 12-step, the spiritual aspect of a program has really made just the biggest changes for me that I can't even explain, and perspectives. It's been one hell of a journey. It's really cool. So I really suggest that. But anyway, back with this, just learning how to incorporate and understand how that can incorporate in your life, or your newly building life in recovery, without fully disregarding all these other accomplishments and all these other abilities you have, So it's kind of a different way of looking and going about it. I think one is if you are able to acquire or do whichever things, looking at your motives and looking at your techniques around it are a really good baseline to help you further understand, is this good or bad behavior for me to be engaging in? Do I really call this success if I manipulated and lied the whole way? Like, it just things to really to look at. And they talk about that in the first paragraph here in this reflection, that I really like the comparisons they make. It is very difficult for me to come to terms with my spiritual illness because of my great pride, disguised by my material successes and my intellectual power, right? There's that dilemma in everything we were talking about. And then typically, depending on what we succeeded in, how we succeeded with it, that pride's going to come up, especially if in addiction we were using that as the defense mechanism. That was the big mask that we held up to show the world that we were okay or we were doing well. Was pride, was ego, was success. Look at all these things I've done. Don't look at the fact that I can't stop drinking and it's destroying everything behind the scenes. Look at all the stuff I've done, So that's one comparison they're talking about that I really like. And going on to say, intelligence is not incompatible with humility, provided I place humility first. So I really like that perspective as well. And it totally negates, like I was saying, any of that crap talk before that you'll hear in meetings on people saying, oh, you don't know anything and you're a screw up and you just need to listen and shut up and all this garbage. It's like, no. It's like, again, read AA literature. They're directly talking about this. And also especially on the humility piece. So I really like that as well. Again, just another perspective to bring in through recovery or through a spiritual life. It's an important piece to this. And I've found this is how you're able to hold both things at once, right? Classic DBT, two things can coexist at the same time. I can be intelligent or I can be very successful, and I can be humble at the same time. It's not one or the other. It's learning how to do both. So being able to honestly look at this, do this work around yourself, ask these hard questions, that's what allows you to get to this sweet spot, so to speak. So there's the one, and talking about that with humility, and I really like. Now we're talking about, I'm just going to keep reading here. To seek prestige and wealth is the ultimate goal for many in the modern world. To be fashionable and to seem better than I really am is a spiritual illness. So I've got I got a funny story about this for myself, just in my own experience. I'd met somebody in a meeting. They'd come back after years of sobriety and relapse, and they'd been coming in and out. They'll get years or months sober, and then they'll relapse for years or months. And they've been going back and forth for quite a while now. And so this time when they had come back newly and they were really focused on success, billionaires, money, wearing all these nice clothes, all this crap. And so they've been coming to meetings. I don't know how much work in program they were really doing, but I know they were really obsessed with going to a Tony Robbins seminar on how to be more successful in business and everything. And so I was a lot newer in recovery too at this point. But I just thought it was really funny. He was like, I'm looking for that spot where spirituality and money overlap. And I just looked at him and I said, they don't. And we both, and a bunch of people around, we all just burst out laughing. And of course, now I think that was absolutely wrong. That isn't true. At the time, that was the limited knowledge and capacity that I had. But from what I'd seen, it was still, they were still putting money first, money, wealth, success, like it talks about, the ultimate goals for many in the modern world. They were putting all of that first and still using all of those old tools and things that they had used when they were building their business. So essentially, the only thing that was changing was they were just trying to not get high anymore, but all the other motives, behaviors, characteristics, they all stayed the same. Obviously, that didn't work for this person. Sooner or later, I don't know how much longer, they'd relapsed and went back out again. And so I like that they talk about that in this second line. To be fashionable and to seem better than I really am is a spiritual illness. So if we're still going about it, if we're still going about it with that motive of presenting better than I really am, this is the face I show to the world, here's all the nice things I have acquired and bought and successes I have built based on my self-will and can-do attitude and all this crap, you're really playing with this dangerous space of where we're feeding more ego, or it says here, that ultimate extreme of living a spiritual illness as opposed to a spiritual life. So there's fine lines between the two. I think it depends on all the variables, so you'll need to discover that for yourself. But it's just, these are important things to be able to realize and to look out for, essentially. So I really like that they talk about that. Just talk about that in this reflection. And that's just been very much the case with my experience. So what I got here, the second paragraph, to recognize and to admit my weakness is the beginning of good spiritual health, or humility, like they were talking about before. It is a sign of spiritual health to be able to ask God every day to enlighten me, to recognize his will. Okay, so like it gets in all this heavy God stuff and everything, and you can obviously go that route if you want. But so the last line here in this paragraph, my spiritual health is excellent when I realize that the better I get, the more I discover how much help I need from others. So talking back about this humility thing, and just accepting help from others, letting that in, working with others, getting out of self and out of this self-seeking motive, self-focused or self-centered behavior and thinking, and then getting more connected with others as well, being able to incorporate that in a part of either process, on the process of gaining some humility, on learning how to still continue and be successful whilst being humble or being spiritual, or working with others to then be building that life in recovery. And these are all interconnected. They're all different pieces of the same pie, so to speak. So I like how they lay all this out. I like this as a topic because I see it a lot, and I see a lot of people struggling with it in recovery. So I think just bottom line with this stuff and with these topics is just to kind of recap on this. Don't come in and disregard all of your successes and abilities and tools and knowledges and everything you have. And at the same time, also don't come into recovery wielding all of these, thinking they've worked everywhere else, they're going to work here in recovery too. They may actually not, or a lot of them may not, or you may need to change some form of application of these tools or knowledges. Be it that, perspective, how you're doing it, motives behind it, making these adjustments to these already existing skills you have to then support you in a life in recovery makes a huge difference. Makes a huge, huge difference. And that's where I've been able to find success. And that's where I have seen a lot of people find a lot of success, And I think I'll just finish with that on proof from my experience that this is true and doable. A handful of guys who I originally was learning AA from and did my steps with and sponsorship with and everything, they were all millionaires. There's a group of them. There were 3 or 4 guys, and they had the same home group. They'd have dinner beforehand every night. They'd meet up twice a week, same time, same place. They were always there. Their recovery was fantastic. The way they would share and talk and speak, how much I gained from them, all of that knowledge was all amazing. And they all built this unbelievable success in recovery, living a spiritual life. It was really cool. And I saw that and I'm like, okay, that's what I want. I'm going to hang out with you guys. So yeah, it is possible. I have seen it multiple times. I am on this path myself and it has just been absolutely incredible. So I can't suggest it all enough. I understand the fear. I see the fear, but give it a try. Give it a try. Do these challenges. Come to meetings. Talk to folks about it. Talk to me about it. It's a really cool, different path that I wasn't aware of before recovery and has really changed my life and perspective. So there you go. I'm going to finish up on that for today. So thank you for checking out today's episode. Really hope you enjoyed that. Please check out the description for all the other ways Spotlight Recovery can support you and you can support Spotlight Recovery. There's lots of info in there, including my contact information because I do recovery coaching with people. So if you like what you're hearing, you want some coaching around this or want to have some discussions around it, please reach out. Would love to chat and see if I can be a good fit for you and help you on your journey, okay? So wishing you a blessed 24 and your recovery, enjoying some spiritual health in your day, and we'll see you again tomorrow.